Philadelphia.
Well, Howie Roseman will just not stop this offseason, will he, with the micro trade? The micro trade man. Hello, everybody. It is John Barchard here for the Watching the Birds Social Club and podcast. Tank Bigsby is a Philadelphia Eagle, and I'm just personally excited. You'll never believe this, but I loved him in college. You know, on the surface, it's amazing that John Clark tweets one thing, and then that becomes the line for all of Eagles Twitter and Instagram and basically every article that you click on here. Tank Bigsby probably is here for returning something, punts, kicks, something like that, until he gets maybe more acquainted with the offense. I could totally see that. But injury or not, this is a statement about Will Shipley. And the only person that I saw, I believe, was from the Fanatics' new afternoon host, and I'm not being a dick. I just know his first name is Bill, and I don't know his last name yet. So he was the only person that I saw this morning that said Will Shipley might be out with this rib injury that he sustained on Thursday night for a while. And that would make sense to me. This is more of a reactionary trade, kind of like the Sam Howell trade was reactionary towards Tanner McKee. It feels the same there. Even if it's not, it's an indictment with Will Shipley for sure. This guy is not here to take snaps behind Will Shipley. I can tell you that much. The reason why I loved him is honestly what he did last year. Jacksonville had a ton of problems. He took over as their number one running back, and with that putrid, I'll see you later, Doug, we're going to change GMs, we're going to change everything, to what you saw was a pretty decent game against one of the worst opponents in the NFL. Granted, I was surprised that Tank Bigsby was very not a part of the ball game. And, he had retweeted, I think, some fans saying, why wasn't Tank getting the ball more? Which pretty much tells me he was at his peak in Jacksonville. Just like the Giants, the Jets, and every other bad, well, I don't even know if we can say that about the Jets this year, but more on that as the year progresses. But any bad organization, we know players are probably better than they show down there. In most cases, I would say. Tank Bigsby had 7 touchdowns and almost carried the ball at like 5 yards a clip with one of the worst Jaguars offenses I've ever seen. And the one thing that you will notice about Will Shipley's game, and including in the preseason, when he gets down near the goal line, he can't punch it in. Like, you can bring him down at the 1, and he doesn't quite have that breakaway speed to go score a touchdown, which we've also seen a couple of times. A really nice player, good kid, and again, if this is injury related, it even makes more sense. But the line out of NovaCare is, Will Shipley's fine, even though I have a sneaking suspicion that he's going to just pop up on the old injury report with limited practice or something like that, or a DNP. All right, so let's recap that real quick. Love Tank. This is a clear upgrade over Will Shipley, injury or not. He's going to score touchdowns in the red zone for sure, and he is now RB2. I don't buy that he's just here for kickoff returns. And we didn't really touch on it yesterday that much. Za'Darius Smith, what are you thinking? If you can remember back in March, this was one of my guys. I really liked the idea of Za'Darius coming in here and was surprised that he wasn't even like a part of OTA. Clearly looks like there is a reason now. They didn't want to spend the guaranteed money that early in the season. Plus, if we're being honest with ourselves, edge is starting to rotate a little bit like CB2. They're still trying to figure out who can get there and step up. I forgot to say this on yesterday's podcast, but when Nanks came on last week and was suggesting, are you really going to rely on all of these young guys come out of the gate swinging, like your Jalix Hunts, your Ajomos, and then relying on these old guys, Aziz and Agbo? Those guys are inactive, and you roll out with Smith, Hunt, Uche, and Patrick Johnson. I'm so happy for Patrick Johnson, but that is not what I imagined walking into the season. Jordan Davis, I thought, had a really good performance. Really, really solid performance. Not what we were expecting in terms of, like, we want that big crushing sack from Jordan Davis, even though he came close a couple of times, and again, he's got to close on that. But for not having JC right next to him and solely relying on Jordan Davis, I thought he did everything he could in that game for the most part. But as a pass rusher, obviously we know he's much easier to handle, and you need the edges to close. It exposes Nolan Smith when JC isn't there too. It's just in terms of actually like finishing the sacks, because there's so much more on the plate, and Nolan Smith needs to get free. Za'Darius Smith, his hands are one of the most dangerous things about him. That's why I love him here. Like, him and Vic just seem to have the same mentality when it comes to checking offensive linemen. And I'm not expecting anything out of a 33-year-old. Uche's been fantastic, and credit to Barney in the Discord for trying to push he's going to be just like Zach Bond narrative. 1 for 1. Hey, week 1 for 1. I'll take it. I just don't see, Uche having a major Zach Bond contract after this season. But if I'm looking at what the Eagles need Za'Darius Smith to do versus like what he would be best at snap-wise, I would say that Za'Darius Smith needs to be at about 50% and not 30% of pass rushing opportunities, which I don't know if that's realistic. And I don't really think this is an indictment on like, oh, Jalix Hunt isn't a starter or whatever. Let's give them time. Let's give 4 to 8 weeks to see if they can get their sea legs going and understand what they're doing wrong. But they're not ready right now. And that's okay. Like, it's not the biggest deal in the world. Maybe this analogy might make sense to you too. Right now, it feels like the Eagles are kind of doing what the Phillies did, where they're just rounding out the margins, right? And some of that's starting to come to fruition for the Phillies right now. Like, all these people that didn't think they had a lick of a chance with all these younger guys coming off their bench and all these older veterans kind of carrying the team throughout the year. Now these young guys are starting to rise and step up and help the Phillies. You know, like, that's what I kind of see happening here with these young pass rushers with the Eagles. It's not ability by any means. It's just experience at this point. And I'm willing to wait with these old dudes that they keep bringing in. Like, one of these guys has to hit. Uche's a good hit. Relatively, I think the edge position is like okay now. It's okay. If Za'Darius Smith has a lot more in the tank than I think, and he could push that to like 55% of the snaps, and I don't know, man, I think you go from okay to really good pass rush. And then the only other notes that I have is just I think it's pretty interesting that the Eagles are still working out wide receivers. Our old friend Quez Watkins said hello. Which immediately made my timeline jump like they just saw a snake. So I get that feeling. Overall, between Za'Darius, I still really like the approach of what Howie Roseman is doing. These guys are not all going to hit. You're taking cheap shots here to round out the roster. And overall, if we're backing this out and looking at what Howie Roseman's done this offseason and making a lot of these trades, I think it's incredibly smart for where the Eagles are at, because obviously half of these are going to miss, or more than half of these are going to miss, and that really doesn't matter. You just need to hit on 2 or 3 of these things. And like, look at what they did with John Mechie. That's great, man. I think that's fantastic. That's an undervalued wide receiver in my opinion, and that's, again, love him in college guy. But still, same thing here. Tank, you're not going to find a better player in the 5th or 6th round in the next couple of years that has the ability and the experience of Tank Bigsby. Just an automatic yes. Who cares? Figure it out later. And I would say Howie and Vic Fangio have pretty much told us, since the beginning of training camp, that a lot of these things were going to continue to happen. Howie was very clear that he was open for business. And there's a quote from Vic Fangio that Dave Zangaro highlighted the other day, which I think is just really important to bring up too. Fangio said on August 18th about what it would take to consider DeJean to play on the outside full-time. Someone to develop the nickel position and someone to develop at the corner position. I think it's interesting, again, like we talked about yesterday, they bring in a guy who's played nickel before. There's still, I guess, arguably a lot of people you're developing at CB2 right now. So I would just say it looks like it's at least lining up like there's one Cooper DeJean experiment. I'm going to keep doubling down on that. I think you would have to do that this week. Like, if you close your eyes and go Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, Adoree Jackson, Jacorian Bennett, it just looks like a loss in your head, doesn't it? And I understand that there are some reservations about Cooper DeJean moving to the outside. There was another loud argument about that yesterday. I just want to finish with this. You made up the song. He's not a safety. He's here to cover your number one. So he either can or he can't. Which one is it, guys? I'm willing to do it, and I don't think he fucking can. I'm willing to try it because that's how athletic he is. I'm willing to try it. His body type, being 6'0", being able to dunk, is perfect for a slot guy or a safety, or both at the same time. He can move around all over the place. Like, I am not one of those people that is putting a box around Cooper DeJean. Let's go find out. Can you imagine if Cooper DeJean ends up being what people thought Keely Ringo's ceiling was? Isn't that just easier to think? I think it is. I would rather have Cooper DeJean growing pains over the next 3 or 4 weeks until he really gets it down. And if he does get it down, that is not only a home run, we can stop talking about the corner position. And big brain, here comes Barchard's razor. Maybe that was the plan all along. It's not like he worked out in the nickel all training camp. He was all over the place. You got to disguise stuff when the media is there. I mean, that's just there. So just something to hang your hat on. There'll probably be more tomorrow, but we definitely have a preview show coming up on Thursday. And just a reminder, we do have a watch party this week. It is happening up in Bucks County. Yeehaw! I know. It's nice up here, though. It's beautiful, but I understand the sentiment because I feel the same way. And even that being said, that's how much I believe in the Neshaminy Creek Brewing. This place is awesome. I've got food for you. If you're thinking about becoming a hat member, I will have hats with me. Bring your dogs. Don't bring your cats. Let's do some push-ups, drink some 2 moods, and watch the Eagles kick the shit out of the Kansas City Chiefs, huh? You want to do that? All the info's in the description. I'll see you on Thursday unless there's breaking news tomorrow. Later, y'all.